So, Manchester United manager conversation. What do we think? Gareth Southgate all the way. How about no? How about Gareth Southgate get in the bin? So, what we're going to discuss a little bit about the managerial situation, as the title of the video suggests here. Will there be a new manager for Man United next season? Because there's all sorts of different discussions that are going on regarding how there could be a change of manager and the likely train of events that will probably lead up to something, should that ever be the case. And we're going to sort of cover most of which those topics have been discussed. Um, and I suppose we should probably start with the most obvious one. And I think the one that most people are probably plotting the most likeliest, and that be results based sacking for Ten Hag, because there's stories talking about backing the manager, that managers, he's fine, it's all good, everything's gonna be okay. That the department, supposedly with news coming out that the departments is supposed to be shifted a little bit, where it's not so much that the manager is allowed to basically be a manager per se, but rather than being a head coach. And maybe Ten Hag might be feeling a little more inclined to do his duties as a manager to coaching a team to play football, play good football, or to try and do that, because I know that thus far since he's been at United, good football's not really been a thing. It hasn't really existed so far, but hopefully, maybe there is a little bit of a change that might be on the horizon that maybe could favour him. It could change the dynamic. Well, it's going to change the dynamic. Now, I suppose we could ask the question: what would Eric think about it? Because we know that Eric, based off the stories, we know that he likes to have the influence over the transfer market to be able to decide who he wants and who he doesn't want. We know that that's kind of been his strong suit, his favourability. Supposedly, we're shifting things up, per se, with what Sir Jim Ratcliffe is talking about recently, that switching it to a head coach and leaving the specialists with each individual department to focus on doing those jobs takes the power and influence away from Ten Hag. Maybe power, yes, is taken away, but influence, you could find that the manager actually has quite a lot of influence, but the conversations with the specialists in those other departments perhaps would stop the manager, currently soon to be head coach, from signing somebody that I think all round the specialists who know this player is probably not worth the risk, not worth the gamble. Maybe there's a silver lining to that cloud, and it's one that we should look into. Now, of course, in terms of managerial change, if somebody is to leave and somebody else to come in, most likely option is Ten Hag ends up getting the boot, ends up getting the sack. And I suppose one of the biggest questions really is what kind of a manager would is plotted to coming in. Now, we've seen the stories talking about who does Ineos like, who does Sir Jim Ratcliffe like, who do these guys like, Sir Dave Brailsford. People talking about Dan Ashworth. I think Dan Ashworth, we all know, is going to be coming in, but in terms of getting it to start sooner, it seems like a distant, really distant proposition now. I think he's going to be not here for quite a while, and we've got to swallow that. We've got to swallow it. It makes absolutely no sense why we wouldn't just pay it off to get Dan Ashworth in now. But that's just Ineos trying to find ways to getting around, trying to pay extra when they want to focus money on other, perhaps more important areas, whilst then perhaps recruiting other specialists who will come and will start, and sticking them in really influential positions and giving them the reins for the summer. We could still have a good summer, but I'd be much more comfortable knowing that everyone's in place and has had a bit of time to plan things out before we get into the nitty gritty of the summer transfer window. However, maybe the other way in which there is a manager change is, like I've discussed about the role change, maybe Ten Hag, this is a job prerequisite that he's accepted the job on the premise that he has the influence and the power to decide these things. And if the structure is set to change where he has the power revoked, maybe, just maybe, that's enough for Ten Hag to think, actually, I'd like to assess my options in the summer as well. So we can't rule that out. I think that's a distinct possibility. I think we have sort of covered this previously when talking about how Ineos would approach to how they structure the system upstairs. Because by the looks of it, it's going to be everything, all the work gets done for the manager, but he's or the head coach, but he doesn't really have the final say on things. He has a say, but it's not the final say. So I'm hoping that if this does come to fruition, that it is a structure where the boards works around the manager and they try to build him what they believe would work best for him. But rather that the head coach at the time would get enough of an input and have enough of an influence. And I think if you can figure out the balance between head coach and the rest of the board, I think it's a unified project with various specialists in various positions, bringing each little individual piece of detail into a bigger picture, and that bigger picture probably built upon the foundations of strong bonds, a cohesive understanding, and just as a whole, I think all of those, all of those factors ticked, big green ticks right the way across the board. That it brings everything together. It glues everything together, because I know that there's concerns that if Ten Hag has no influence, not only one would he walk away, but two, maybe all of the guys upstairs would sign him a load of players that he doesn't want. So that again, realistic cause for concern, and I'm hoping that isn't the case, but we can't necessarily say that it definitely wouldn't happen, just simply because we don't know how this board is going to function. Omar Barada, as CEO, coming from Manchester City, has worked at a club, Manchester City, where Pep doesn't necessarily have all the players just put in a team for him. He has no say. It is essentially a team working with Pep Guardiola and Pep directing the traffic per se and saying, yeah, I like him. I think he works for me. That's the type of player that I think he would fit. He'd be a viable piece in my system. Maybe that turns out to be the case. I don't know. But by the looks of it, it's just looking a little bit more sort of more swayed towards having multiple departments sort of or put in place for the head coach. So yeah, there's various things that I think we can look into as far as the future of Ten Hag is concerned, and perhaps what awaits him. Now, quick address with the manager stories, like talking about who's replacing him. First and foremost, Gareth Southgate to Man United would be one of the most hated managerial appointments ever in football. One of the most hated managerial appointments. And for a new board, a new ownership to come in and make that decision, I think they would test the waters. And I think that's probably what these stories are. They are probable feelers, putting it out there, seeing what do people think. Put out the feelers and let's act upon what the response is. And even with just speculative stories, a lot of people are thinking, nah, this Sergeant Ratcliffe guy just ain't it. this guy ain't serious. Ineos, they're not serious. Now, I know people will say, well, Dan Ashworth once worked with Gareth Southgate, and that is true. But some of these people, I'm pretty sure Gary Neville. Gary Neville. I mean, he's worked with quite a few specialists here and there, dotted around from the England days. England setups. Actually, I want to check if Gary Neville actually has. Um, when was he? So yeah, from 2012 to 2015. Um, when did Dan Ashworth work for? So yeah, England Director of Development from 2013 to 2018. So yeah, Dan Ashworth worked with Gary Neville. Where's the stories linking Gary Neville to the Manchester United job? They've worked together, guys. They've worked together. Oh man, I'll tell you what. Dan Ashworth storylines, put them to bed. Keep him in some waxy lyrical fan fiction storyline esque nonsense. Keep him as far away from factual reality. Let's flush it down the toilet. Graham Potter is not an ideal choice for Manchester United. Gareth Southgate, as far as how much I would appreciate per manager being in the job, Gareth Southgate's down here. Graham Potter is not an ideal Manchester United candidate for the manager's position. Hold on, let me have a look. Yeah, somewhere really, really far up there is how much more desirable Graham Potter is for this job than Gareth Southgate is. And people will say, "Oh, don't hate on Gareth Southgate. Hating's wrong." Oh, I will hate on him. I will hate. I'll happily hate on him, and I'll see the steam coming out your ears. I'll see your face turning into a red plum tomato, and I will give you the biggest shit-eating grin that I can possibly muster. That's what I feel about the whole Gareth Southgate story stuff. So, yeah, stick that somewhere where the sun doesn't shine and leave it at that. It cannot, it must not happen for the sake of the future of Manchester United. It goes that deep. It really, really runs that deep. So, yeah. But aside from that, what do I think? Do I think there will be a new manager at Manchester United for next season? Do I really think that this will be the case? I would say if Ten Hag can finish the season relatively strongly, I think he will secure the backing into next season. I firmly believe that he will, that he can. It just really just depends on how he does between now and the end of the season. If it goes horribly wrong, I think he's gone. But if he does well, if he does relatively well, even if he doesn't really finish in Champions League, I think if the signs are there that there is something really to work with, I think Ineos might say, well, it's good enough for us to work with. Of course, the result itself in finishing outside of the Champions League, of course, is technically speaking unacceptable, but it's a starting point, and let's try and work with it and see where we can go from there. Possibly. And again, it goes back to whether whether he keeps his job between now and the summer, because he might not. But if he does lose his job, to me, Nagelsmann is probably an option to go for. Of course, the timing, but like for him, Germany, the Euros, not ideal in terms of timing wise, but the candidate itself, I would think, yeah, more an ideal choice there. Hansi Flick, another option, just a different face, and I think probably Hansi Flick would be happier than Eric Ten Hag would be to working in a system based structure rather than it being, oh, here you go, have everything, have all the power, have all the cake, and eat it. So for me, I think there are names out there which I think are much more suited to the level of Manchester United, but there are some names out there that, by all accounts, by all means, we cannot afford to go out there and speak those names. Like, don't even go there. Trust me. If we go there, this face here will come to visit you in the dead of night. Your sleep paralysis demon will come into your room at night, and he will tell you his dream starting 11, and it includes your top 11 worst players of all time. He'll read out each name, and you'll say each name really slowly, and he will tell you the absolute pain of which player, how each player is going to play, the worst football you've ever seen. Is going to describe how each game goes from minute 1 to minute 90. Yeah, that's of course I don't think I'm pretty sure that's not Gareth Southgate, but even still, there's your Southgate-esque paralysis demon. So, but anyways, guys, leave your thoughts and your feelings about the whole managerial situation in the comment section below. As well as that, do be sure to also like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. That's it for me for today. Tomorrow night, I think, international break is an absolute pain in the backside. So yeah, it's slow, it drags, it's dull, but it is what it is. We'll see if there's anything going on for tomorrow night. If not, you'll definitely see me on the Sunday night takeaway show on Early Doors Football TV. Make sure you don't miss that. Should be at 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock every Sunday. Episode 11, I believe it is. Episode 11 of the Sunday Night Takeaway Show. Man, this time is flying. Time is really, really flying. But yeah, big ups to everybody. Thank you very much for watching. I'm going to finish the rest of my drink. Probably go get myself my pint of signature. And also, I think there is a donut as well downstairs. I'll investigate that. I smell a donut. I'll go investigate it. Take care, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your Friday nights, and we'll see you again over the weekend. Take care.